This is Noah Tillinghast from Callidus Capital, and today I'm going to talk about 5 questions to ask a financial advisor before you hire one. Many people get this wrong, and indeed 71% of pre-retirees never ask about fiduciary duty, which is the requirement of an advisor to act in your best interest. You can lose thousands or tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars if you pick a poor advisor, or if they're committing some type of fraud, etc., etc. And over 7% of advisors have been tied to misconduct, which is a technical term involving fees, involving them paying the government for a action that they took, which they should not have taken. So if you ask the right questions, you can protect yourself against this, and ultimately choose a good advisor. Now, the first question to ask should be, are you a fiduciary, and will you put that in writing? Now, a good answer is yes, I am a fiduciary, and as part of our engagement agreement, I can put that in writing. If there's any hesitation, well, sometimes I'm a fiduciary, or I will act in your best interest. That isn't necessarily a complete turnoff, but it is definitely a major red flag. As if they are a fiduciary, they're legally required to act in your best interest, not their firm's, but in your best interest. And just putting that in writing, if they were not a fiduciary, they are not allowed to do that. If they are a fiduciary, then obviously they are. Now, the second question should be, have you ever had a client complain, regulatory action, or disciplinary record? Now, if they say my record's clean, you can look up on FINRA Broker Check, which brokercheck.finra.org. It's free and public. You can just go there and see any type of disciplinary actions or complaints that have been filed for that advisor. If they have a lot of complaints, that's obviously a major red flag. And if they're very defensive, dismissive, like, oh, John, he was major issue, it's all his problem, etc., etc. If they say something like that, or anything that isn't really relevant, and try to switch the conversation, that's you probably should not work with that individual, and you should definitely check FINRA Broker Check. You can check this on your phone. Just go to brokercheck.finra.org and search up their firm, and you can see any complaints. The third question is, how exactly do you get paid, and do you earn any commissions on what you recommend? So there are two main different types of financial planners and financial advisors. We'll call it three. So there are those that charge fees based on assets under management. So let's say 1% of assets under management. Well, there's a second type that charges plan-based fees. Let's say they charge you several $1,000s for a financial plan. Or if they get paid in commissions, which means, let's say you buy a stock, and they have you buy the stock. They might get paid a certain percentage of that. Now, if they get paid for you to buy something, that obviously incentivizes them to have you trade more. For instance, if, let's say, they make 10 basis points each trade. Now, they're going to make more money if they have you committing more trades, executing more trades. If, let's say, they execute one trade every 10 years, let's say you have a stock that really runs, and you execute one trade, and you hold that for 10 years, they make no money off that. And there's a strong incentive to sell or trim that stock. If they charge a percentage of assets under management, then there's no incentive to do that. they have an incentive to maximize the amount of assets that you have that are under management by them. So if they're compensated in various ways, then if you're and if you're not sure exactly how they're compensated, you need to figure that out beforehand, just to figure out exactly what their conflicts of interest are and whether or not they're incentivized to help you or not. The fourth question is, how do you factor taxes into your investment recommendations? There are many advisors that don't take into account taxes, or just in the short term maximize tax avoidance, which in the long term ends up with you paying many more dollars in taxes than you would had you had a tax smart retirement plan throughout your entire retirement. If they say we have Roth conversions, withdrawal sequencing, etc., that we build into a tax plan for you, and we coordinate with your CPA, that's obviously a great answer. If they say, oh, I focus on investments, if taxes are your accountant's job, then you could be missing out on one of the main reasons to hire a financial advisor, which is figuring out ways to minimize taxes. Also, another follow-up is, do you coordinate with my CPA and my estate planning attorney? Simply because if they're interested in helping maximize your long-term total assets, coordinating with your CPA and your attorney and your estate planning attorney, let's say you wanted a specific account to be donated to your kids. You would want that account to be invested in a certain way. You would want your advisor to know that. So that's one thing to take into account when you're working with an advisor. And the final question is, what's your process for adjusting my plan as life changes? If they say, well, check in once a year, yeah, that should be good, once a year. You should, that's not a plan. Now, here we review with clients twice a year, once before tax season and once near the end of the year. If you're and also we have calls in between then, and we'll reach out. Let's say your advisor is reaching out if there's market volatility or any changes in your plan, and they should also be constantly updating your plan, managing investments to go along with that plan, etc., etc. Your plan, the baseline is your plan should be a living strategy. If it's a document that you file away, you're missing a ton in your retirement plan. So just reviewing all those. How do you get paid? Have you had a complaint? How do you factor taxes? And what's your process for adjusting my plan as my life changes? If you're interested in an advisor who welcomes these questions, you can schedule a free consultation at my website or subscribe. Thanks.